Today, we're building this stylized water shader from scratch in Godot. I'll walk you through every step, explaining exactly what each part does. So by the end of this tutorial, you'll understand not just how to make it, but how it works. Let's get started. Let's start with a completely empty scene. First, add a node 3D. This will be the root node for our project. Now click Create New Node and search for Mesh Instance 3D. This node will hold the mesh where our water shader is rendered. In the inspector, open the mesh property and select a plane mesh. Since we're creating a large body of water, let's increase the size to 100 by 100. Next, set both subdivisions to 200. This step is very important because our shader will animate the vertices to create waves. If the mesh doesn't have enough geometry, the water won't deform smoothly and the waves will look blocky. Now let's create the material. Under Geometry, click Material Override and create a new shader material. Then open the shader property, create a new shader and name it Water Shader. Now open the shader editor and delete everything that's already there. We're going to write this shader completely from scratch, and I'll explain every section as we go so you'll understand exactly what every line of code is doing. Now that our shader is set up, it's time to start writing the code. The first thing we need to do is tell Godot what kind of shader we're creating. Since our water is a 3D object, we're using a spatial shader. Next, we define the render mode. This controls how the material behaves when it's rendered. Here we're configuring things like lighting, backface culling, and specular reflections. These settings give us a solid foundation before we start building the water effect itself. Next, let's define the colors we'll use throughout the shader. Instead of hard-coding them directly into the shader, we're exposing them as uniforms. This makes them appear in the inspector, allowing us to adjust the look of the water in real time without changing a single line of code. Here we're defining separate colors for deep water, mid-depth water, shallow areas, foam, and even the sunlight reflections. Having these as editable parameters, it gives us a lot more flexibility when fine-tuning the final result. Now let's expose the rest of our controls. These parameters let us fine-tune the behavior of the water, including the wave speed, wave height, overall wave scale, foam intensity, surface roughness, and several other values that control how calm or turbulent the water appears. Just like the colors, all of these are exposed in the inspector, so we can easily experiment with different looks without modifying the shader code. Before we can generate natural-looking waves, we need a source of randomness. First, we declare a few varying variables. These allow us to pass data from the vertex shader to the fragment shader, so both stages can work together. Next, we create a simple hash function. Its purpose is to generate consistent pseudo-random values. While the results aren't truly random, they're perfect for procedural effects, and they'll serve as the foundation for the noise we'll use to shape our waves. Using that hash function, we can now build our own noise function. Instead of producing completely random values, it smoothly blends them together. This gives us soft, natural transitions, making it perfect for creating realistic water movement. Now we're taking that noise one step further with fractal Brownian motion, or FBM. Instead of relying on a single layer of noise, FBM stacks multiple layers at different scales. The result is much richer, more organic patterns that are perfect for creating large, natural-looking ocean swells. Next comes turbulence. Unlike FBM, turbulence takes the absolute value of the noise, producing sharper, more chaotic details. We'll use it later to break up the surface, adding extra variation and making the water feel much more dynamic. Now we're creating the heart of our shader, the Gerstner wave function. This function calculates how each wave travels across the surface and displaces the vertices to create realistic wave motion. At the same time, it updates the surface normals, ensuring the lighting and reflections stay accurate as the waves animate. Later on, we'll call this function multiple times, layering several waves together to create a much more natural and realistic ocean. Now we can finally start modifying the mesh itself inside the vertex function. First, we store the original vertex position and calculate the current time so the animation can run continuously. Next, we generate a few layers of procedural noise to create large ocean swells and introduce some natural variation across the surface. After that, we initialize the tangent, binormal, and offset vectors. These let us track both the wave displacement and the surface orientation, which we'll need for accurate lighting. Now comes the fun part. Instead of relying on a single wave, we're layering multiple Gerstner waves together. Each wave has its own direction, wavelength, speed, and phase offset. When they're combined, they produce a much more natural and less repetitive ocean surface. Once that's done, we add another layer of procedural noise to create smaller ripples and irregular details. This helps break up the smooth wave pattern and makes the water feel far more organic. Finally, we apply all of the calculated offsets to the vertices, store the wave height for later use, and recalculate the surface normal so the lighting and reflections respond correctly to the animated waves. At this point, you should already see the mesh come to life with realistic, animated water. Now that we've animated the geometry, the final step is giving the water its appearance. Inside the fragment function, we start by calculating the relative height of each wave. We'll use that value to smoothly blend between our deep, mid, and shallow water colors. Next, we detect the wave crests. These areas receive a procedural foam mask, allowing foam to appear only in the highest parts of the waves. After that, we add a Fresnel effect. This makes the edges of the water appear brighter at grazing angles, adding much more depth and realism to the surface. Then we create a simple specular highlight to simulate sunlight reflecting off the moving waves. Finally, we assign the finished color to the material and configure the roughness and specular values to complete the look. And that's it. Our procedural water shader is now fully working. Now that everything is working, let's fine-tune the final look. For this scene, I'm lowering the wave speed to 0.6 and reducing the wave height to 0.14. These settings create a much calmer, more natural-looking water surface. Of course, these values are entirely up to you. Feel free to experiment with the rest of the parameters to create anything from a peaceful lake to a stormy ocean. And that's our stylized water shader, built completely from scratch. I hope this tutorial helped you understand not just the code, but also the ideas behind it. If you're building a game in Godot, a water shader is only one piece of the puzzle. So next, let's create a smooth third-person player controller from scratch. I'll see you in the next tutorial.